Luckily, some friends kind of pushed me and said, hey, you're probably never going to have more time, like you should start now. And so I'm very glad that I've started. I definitely knew it was a big time commitment. Also wasn't entirely sure where to start. I wasn't really thinking about when I first started, for sure. There's certain things you have to work through and certain things you have to kind of overcome to progress to, which I've definitely had in my investing journey or real estate journey in general, just different problems we've had to work through to kind of overcome to keep going. I was able to purchase my first property at 18 with his guidance, which was awesome. That first property definitely gave me a great foundation. I don't regret any of the deals we've done, but it definitely can be challenging to deal with families sometimes. If it's someone like your kids that are in their 20s that are looking to get started, really I think the best way is house hacking. Basically you can buy a property, live there for a year, get it stabilized, and then repeat that process again after a 1-year period. It's just navigating the market and understanding the market. So it's just a matter of understanding the market, understanding what you're looking for, and then going to go search for it. So if you could, depending on where you're at and what community you're in, see you can find a local real estate meetup and learn about those key players in those markets, because that's really going to be how you can expand your knowledge. It's definitely not been easy. There's definitely been a lot of curveballs. Being able to do that tenant screening and kind of work through those issues is going to eliminate a lot of problems in the future. The market right now is challenging, so trying to find deal flow can be challenging. You kind of have to explore different options, right? Understanding people and understanding different dynamics and understanding how to communicate was super valuable in this situation. Everyone's kind of got their own way of doing things and their own way of conducting business, and so kind of being able to adapt to that, but also make sure they're doing it properly. So biggest challenges is definitely still producing deals. So really it's just a very impactful organization that's here in North Fulton County that helps the local people here.
Do you want to invest in real estate and aren't sure how to get started? Or does even the idea of investing in real estate seem overwhelming and maybe out of reach for you? Today, you'll get to learn from someone who knows from personal experience what it feels like to get started, how it is to help other people get started, and who ultimately has overcome those fears to achieve financial freedom. And now, as a result, is getting to explore some other freedoms, including the freedom of private aviation. I am so excited to welcome to the Plain Success podcast, Matt Nicklin. Matt, how are you today?
Doing great. Thanks for having me, Alan.
No, it's my pleasure. Now, Matt, I want to, maybe a lot of people would start at the beginning, go to the end. I kind of want to talk about the end first. You've just recently started learning how to fly, just barely into that. So I'd love to know, what was the attraction to aviation? What were maybe some of the fears of getting into aviation, and what have you learned so far? I know that's a lot of questions right from the start, but I'm excited to hear this from you.
Yeah. So I've always been fascinated by planes. I remember being a kid and going to air shows as a kid and just seeing all kinds of different things. I remember, being a Boy Scout or Cub Scout and going to the Air Force Base and seeing the planes and just always being fascinated with planes. And then, I've always wanted to be a pilot and go get my private pilot's license, but kind of had this philosophy, I'll do it when I have more time. And luckily, some friends kind of pushed me and said, hey, you're probably never going to have more time, like you should start now. And so I'm very glad that I've started and I've been progressing and learning how to fly. So it's been an awesome adventure so far.
Okay, so for other people who, like you, I grew up going to air shows. I can remember going to lots of air shows. I still love going to air shows. And what other than just time, was time the only thing that kept you from getting started and learning how to fly? Did it just seem like something that you were just supposed to watch and not participate in? Tell me what some of the hesitations were.
Yeah. So time for sure. I definitely knew it was a big time commitment. Also wasn't entirely sure where to start. That I knew a few people that were pilots and knew kind of what they went through, but wasn't really sure where to begin. So I was lucky and found a discovery flight, which a lot of flight schools offer, which is kind of basically like an intro flight, kind of gets you familiar with it. You can see if it's something you want to explore a little bit more. And so I took that discovery flight, and like as soon as we got back on the ground, I was like, all right, let's book the first lesson. Like I'm good to go. Let's get rolling.
What was it that you experienced in that first flight that made you want to schedule right away? Was it a feeling? Was it the views? Like there's a lot that's happening on that first discovery flight. So maybe walk through some of those sensations and why it was like an immediate, yeah, I do want to do this.
Yeah, so definitely a lot of feelings there. Definitely some adrenaline. Not being in a small plane like that before. That was my first experience in a Cessna, and so being in the cockpit and just being there and being able to fly a little bit, kind of the thrill of that, and also wanting to get the skills to actually learn how to fly the plane and how to navigate. Was what was driving me to go ahead and do that first lesson and get started.
Okay, so then you got to the first lesson, and what was it what you expected, or was it not what you expected? Because I know for me, there was a lot more to flying an airplane and being a pilot than I ever imagined. I just didn't have any idea how much knowledge I was going to need to acquire.
Oh, for sure, for sure. I mean, a lot of the pre-flight, checklists and stuff that you don't really think about. That was like, okay, we need to go through this, and completely makes sense to go through. But when you're just used to kind of jumping on a plane and going, you're not thinking about all that stuff. So that, and then reading maps and kind of navigating was definitely a learning curve that I wasn't really thinking about when I first started, for sure.
Yeah. So that's your first experience with aviation. What are the long-term goals? Where do you see this playing out over the next 5 or 10 years for you? What kind of a part of your life will aviation be?
Mm-hmm. Yep. So, like I said, I'm still studying for my private pilot's license right now. So my goal would be to get the private pilot's license. Eventually, at some point, I would like to get a plane and have my own plane that I can fly to different places. So that's something I'm working towards. And I'd like to kind of have it for personal use where I can go to different places, but also business if there's different properties or different land that I'm looking at. Be able to hop on a plane and check it out.
So Matt, I know you well enough to know that somewhere there's probably a spreadsheet that is telling you when you can buy a plane and at what kind of plane you're going to be able to buy. Business-wise, what is it going to take for you to get to the point where now you pull that trigger and buy a plane? Or am I totally off and that hasn't been something you've thought through?
No, I've thought through it and honestly looked at a lot of plane listings and kind of done a little bit of budgeting and trying to figure out what would work there and how much I want to spend and things of that nature. So, I think the first step is getting the private pilot's license, and then I can kind of put some more timeline on actually purchasing the plane. But I've looked at a number of different options, kind of explored that a little bit more to see, how much I actually want to spend and what that would look like.
Yeah. Now, what does your family think about you flying?
Yeah, very supportive. I'm single, unmarried, and have parents, and they're supportive of me flying. I think they're both of the opinion that I need to get a lot more hours before they'd fly with me, but they're both supportive of me getting some education. Also found out my cousin's also getting his private pilot's license, and I think he's going to progress a little bit further and get his commercial license, but it's cool to kind of have that family dynamic as well.
Yeah, that's a lot of fun. So, Matt, if we back up just a little bit at the beginning of maybe learning about real estate or making your first investment, what kind of parallels did you experience then to what you're experiencing now with aviation? Because I think there's a lot of similarities between the two things.
Yeah, there is. And it's interesting too with my flight training. I kind of had a little bit of a speed hump moment I had to get over where I had 9 lessons that were canceled in a row. Some due to weather, some due to mechanical issues. So it's similar to anything. There's certain things you have to work through and certain things you have to kind of overcome to progress to, which I've definitely had in my investing journey or real estate journey in general. Just different problems we've had to work through to kind of overcome to keep going.
Yeah, so take us back to when did you discover real estate? Did your parents teach you about it? Was this something that your family was doing, or was that something that, maybe like a lot of people that are listening to this, they see other people doing it, they'd love to be able to do it, but it seems kind of big and scary. What was it for you? When did you kind of make that discovery, and walk me through that learning process at the beginning.
Yeah. So I'm actually very fortunate. My father's active in real estate and an investor, and I was able to purchase my first property at 18 with his guidance, which was awesome. So this is 2010. The real estate market was severely depressed, and it was just a really tough time for real estate in general. But I was able to find a condo for $30,000, believe it or not, and purchase that condo with $10,000 down that I had from working just odd jobs while I was in school, and basically got a $20,000 private loan. Was able to purchase that $30,000 condo. Basically took all the rents and additional money that I made from working to quickly pay off that loan, and then do that again and again and again, and basically build a portfolio that way. Was also getting my real estate license while I was in college, and then basically all the commissions I was making with the real estate license, I was using to either pay off those loans or to acquire new properties.
Well, so it sounds like your dad has really been a great mentor for you in
Huge.
real estate. What was his experience? What is his story, and why was he compelled to share that with you? I would love to hear that piece. I didn't grow up learning about real estate, so unlike you, I feel like I'm still kind of getting started. Made some big moves in the last couple of years, but it's been a really steep learning curve, and I kind of feel like I'm playing catch up. And I would love to do for my kids what your dad has done for you, is get them started early so that they arrive at a point of financial freedom a lot more quickly than what I was able to do.
Yeah, no, I mean that first property definitely gave me a great foundation. I would say he probably, in his words, probably dabbled in real estate a little bit for a long time, and then once we moved to Georgia here about 17 years ago or 18 years ago, he really got serious in real estate, and so started buying a lot of rental properties and learning a lot more about it. And his guidance was able to help me a lot. So I think like earlier in his life, he had maybe one rental property or maybe two rental properties, and that's kind of as far as he went. And then once we moved here to Georgia and saw kind of the opportunity with it, is when he started gaining more experience and started buying a lot more properties and growing that knowledge.
Now, are you guys investing together now, or are you just kind of doing your own thing? How does that look in your family?
Yeah. So we have invested together before. We actually own 2 properties together now, and we've done a number of flips and stuff together before, but we mostly operate independently. We have done a few deals together.
Has that always been a good experience? I know sometimes doing any kind of business or deals with family sometimes can get sticky situations, or have you guys not had to struggle with that too much?
Yeah, they've all gone well. I don't regret any of the deals we've done, but it definitely can be challenging to deal with family sometimes, just the dynamics and kind of thought processes, like he wants to do one thing, I want to do something else. But by and large, we get along really well, and they've all worked out really well.
That's fantastic. What does your portfolio look like now, Matt? You started
Yes.
at 18.
Mm-hmm.
That was, 1 or 2 years ago. So you started at 18. Where are you at now? What is possible, and in what time frame did that take you?
Yep. So I'm 32 now. So I've had a number of different properties that I've bought and sold over the years, but right now I own 13 properties, 2 of which are commercial, and the rest are single-family residential properties.
Okay, so on average, you've kept about 1 a year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that the pace that you want to go at going forward? Are you wanting to accelerate that? What does the future of real estate investing look like for you?
Yeah, I don't know if the number really matters as much as the deals. So, right now I'm looking at bigger commercial deals, right? So it more so depends on the numbers of those deals instead of the actual number of deals. So, I'd be okay doing one deal a year or doing multiple deals a year as long as the numbers make sense.
Okay. Why don't we maybe talk to it? I know that you've helped literally hundreds of people get a start in real estate investing. So I'd love to know how you're helping those people. Is this a formal coaching opportunity that you have? Is this just informally people hear about what you're doing and then connect with you and you just walk them through that? And then kind of from there, maybe thinking about, I have three kids right now in their early 20s, don't have real estate investments right now, and all over the headlines of the news, it's people are saying you can't buy real estate now, it's too expensive, you're not going to be able to own a home. So what would you say, talking to that person that was just like you 13 or 14 years ago, young, has an idea of what they want to do, but now they don't see any $30,000 condos on the market? How would you walk them through that process, and what guidance would you give?
Mm-hmm. Yep. So I've been able to help a lot of investors. Well, I'm really big on Bigger Pockets. So I'm a featured agent in Bigger Pockets for the Atlanta market. So a lot of people have reached out to me that way, and I've been able to help them acquire real estate. So, if it's someone like your kids that are in their 20s that are looking to get started, really I think the best way is house hacking. So house hacking is basically they purchase property as an owner-occupant, and they rent out the bedrooms to basically subsidize or reduce their cost that they're going to pay on a monthly basis. So I still think that's probably the best way to go if you're a younger person and you want to get started in real estate, because you're going to get owner financing terms on the mortgage when you purchase it, and it's a great way to acquire properties. I have a lot of personal friends that have started with house hacking, and they have 3 or 4 properties that way, and it's a great way to just build a portfolio, because basically you can buy a property, live there for a year, get it stabilized, and then repeat that process again after a 1-year period, and basically go purchase another property with a lower down payment and owner financing terms.
And how do you feel about the whole tagline on the news that real estate's too expensive now, you can't get started investing in real estate? How would you counter that?
Mm-hmm. So it's definitely a more difficult time to start, but I mean, you can definitely still start. I'm definitely still getting deals. There's a lot of investors that are still getting deals out there. So, it's just navigating the market and understanding the market. There's still deals to be had. There's still terms that you can work out. Sometimes you can work out seller finance terms that may work out better. They're a little bit harder to come by, but those deals are still out there. So it's just a matter of understanding the market, understanding what you're looking for, and then going to go search for it.
Yeah. And when you were talking about learning how to fly, you talked about the importance of a checklist. Is there a checklist that you have for real estate investing that when you're looking at a property that you would go through, or that you would recommend that other people go through?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely due diligence checklists, which I would highly recommend getting something like that if it's going to be your first property. Due diligence can include everything from your full inspections to insurance quotes to anything in between. So there's a lot of free checklists out there. I definitely would recommend having something like that. But before that, too, you also want to have a buy box. So a buy box basically determines what exactly am I looking for. Am I looking for single-family houses that are 3-bedroom, 2-bath? Am I looking for retail commercial properties that are a minimum of this square footage? Really just kind of map out your criteria, and that way you can focus in on what you're looking for and use that as your guide to help try to find those properties.
Now, you had your dad to act as a mentor. There may be other people whose family has no interest in real estate investing. They haven't learned that way. If they don't have that kind of mentorship, what are some other places, or what are some things that you have done to learn in that process, and what kind of mentoring are you getting now, and how do other people find that?
Mm-hmm. Yep. So I think meetups and masterminds are huge. I've learned a lot just by joining local meetups and masterminds that are national. So if you could, depending on where you're at and what community you're in, see if you can find a local real estate meetup, whether it's a RIA or just an independent meetup where people are discussing real estate. Maybe it's a meetup and there's different wholesalers there, maybe there's agents there, maybe there's investors, but just go to as many meetups as you can, try to network, see what people are doing, see what the market is doing, see what the chatter is, see if you can learn about that local market and learn about those key players in those markets, because that's really going to be how you can expand your knowledge.
Now, Matt, from the outside looking in, you started investing when you were 18, you're 32 now, you've got 13 properties, and it seems like it's just been easy. So I would love to know what hasn't been easy. Where has this been difficult? What kind of maybe doubts have you had to combat? What have been the tough spots? Because we're all going to run into not every flight is going to go as planned. Not every real estate transaction goes as planned, and life often throws us curveballs in a lot of different ways. So where has life or investing not been easy for you?
Oh yeah, I mean, for sure, it's definitely not been easy. There's definitely been a lot of curveballs. I mean, I think back to that first property I had. You know, at 18, I probably did not know all the proper tenant screening things to do and things to look out for. So definitely do proper tenant screening. Make sure you're doing background checks. Make sure you're doing credit checks. Looking at bank statements. Looking at W-2, their pay stubs, and verifying all that information. Because really, at the beginning, a lot of my issues were basically with tenant screening. I took a lot of risks with tenants that other landlords probably wouldn't have taken, which some of them worked out and some of them didn't, right? But being able to do that tenant screening and kind of work through those issues is going to eliminate a lot of problems in the future.
Okay. What kind of challenges have different market conditions presented you?
Yeah, so, as we mentioned, the market right now is challenging. So trying to find deal flow can be challenging. You kind of have to explore different options, right? So right now in Atlanta, the market inventory is very low. So you may have to look at off-market channels. You may have to look at other opportunities for inventory, go direct to seller, just basically looking at all options, for available deal flow.
Yeah. So going back a little bit, while you were in college, I just saw something briefly online that you were involved with something called Nature Bound Trip Leadership. What was that? What was that experience?
Yeah. So that was a program that my university offered that basically did, trips and excursion activities for the students, which was pretty cool. So we did everything from skydiving, hang gliding, whitewater kayaking, caving, really all kinds of adventure and exploration type of stuff, which was awesome. It's probably kind of why I enjoyed flying, because I enjoyed that adventure aspect of it. So it was just an awesome opportunity to participate that and then become a trip leader and lead some of those trips.
What are some of the adventures that you're pursuing right now that don't involve flying? You mentioned kayaking, you mentioned whitewater rafting, skydiving. Are you still doing any of those things? Where do you get your adrenaline fix?
Yeah. So I have not been skydiving recently at all, but have been whitewater rafting a few times here recently, and that's been a lot of fun. I was recently in Costa Rica and went whitewater rafting down there. So really still enjoy getting out on the water and doing some whitewater rafting for sure.
And what kind of leadership lessons did you learn from being involved with that student organization?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. When you have a bunch of college students that think they know everything, that could be a challenge to lead those groups and kind of make sure everybody's safe and nothing dangerous happens. So definitely, understanding people and understanding different dynamics and understanding how to communicate was super valuable in those situations.
Okay. And how I've noticed, again, from looking at your information online, that it looks like you've got a team of realtors that you're working with. Mm-hmm. What are some of the similarities and differences between leading college kids on these excursions and what your experience has been building the brokerage that you have now in Atlanta?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Leading independent agents also has its own unique challenges. Everyone's kind of got their own way of doing things and their own way of conducting business, and so kind of being able to adapt to that, but also make sure they're doing it properly has definitely presented some challenges. But it's awesome to see those people succeed and help them close their transactions and ultimately see our clients succeed as well.
How are you helping your agents succeed right now? Because there's low inventory, so listings are hard to find. When you've got a buyer, it's hard to find a house to put them into. So how are you maintaining the morale of your team, and what are kind of some of the daily practices that you've implemented that are helping them to succeed where maybe others aren't having as much success?
Mm-hmm. Yep. So that is a great question. So I think, by providing leads and kind of some of that mentorship has been huge for the team. Being able to help them through specific problems. If they have questions, they can always give me a call, shoot me an email, a text, and we can kind of work through those problems. That has definitely helped a lot. And then providing some lead flow where, that if they're struggling to get deals, that has helped as well to help them, continue to progress.
And what are maybe the biggest challenges right now for your team?
Yeah, so biggest challenges is definitely still producing deals. We have worked a lot with investors, and we will continue to work with investors, but deal flow is reduced right now because interest rates are a little bit higher. So trying to work through that by being creative and either doing creative offers or different options to look for inventory outside of the MLS has been something that we've worked through in order to still proceed.
Yeah. So outside of real estate, what are some of maybe the big goals that you have for yourself right now? You've reached a level of financial success. Sounds like you're enjoying some adventures. What are maybe some of the things where you're challenging yourself right now? What does the Matt 2.0 look like in the next year or 2 years?
Yeah. So, definitely the pilot's license. That's something I've been putting a lot of time in and want to get this year. So I've been spending a lot of time there. Also been spending a lot of time on the health and fitness side of things. Lost about 35 pounds in the last 8 months or so. So
Wow.
I'm going to continue to keep that down and keep working on that. Definitely was focused a little too much on business and not so much on the health side. So trying to kind of rebalance a little bit and make sure that I'm taking care of myself and taking care of health and fitness.
Okay. And what role does giving and charity play in your life? I noticed that you support the North Fulton Community Charities. What is that? What is your involvement, and what has that done for you?
Yeah. So that's a local organization here in Atlanta, and it's an incredible organization. So they have a food pantry there, they have a thrift store, they have an education center, and so basically their purpose is to help the community. So they help the community through the food pantry and give away food to people in need. They have an education center to those that need education, whether that's school-age children or people that need help getting their GED or more advanced education. And then they have the thrift store that basically will help raise funds for families in need. So it could be rental assistance, it could be any kind of child support type services. So really, it's just a very impactful organization that's here in North Fulton County that helps the local people here.
And how do you decide how much to give? I know there's a lot of different places, a lot of different charities where you can direct excess funds and provide giving. What's that decision-making process for you?
Mm-hmm. That's a good question. I don't know if I have a framework for that. I know, you and I are both in GoBundance, and they have the give to income ratio, which is something I've kind of looked at a little bit more at recently and said, hey, do I want this percentage to be more? Am I okay with this percentage? Where should this really fall? So that's something I'm still trying to kind of narrow in on, but it's something that I'm trying to give a little bit more, not only monetarily, but also time-wise, and kind of donate some time with these different organizations to help them out.
Is there an experience that's had a big impact on you that was a result either of being the recipient of someone else's charity and goodwill, or maybe as you on the other end helping someone else that just stands out in your mind as just a memorable experience?
Yeah, so I've volunteered a few times at North Fulton Community Charities with different events they had, but one in particular kind of stands out in my mind, which is their annual toy drive, which is an awesome event. So they basically have a huge warehouse that that someone has donated that they can use, and everyone has donated these different toys. I mean, there's all kinds of different puzzles and kid toys, everything, bicycles, really any kind of children's gifts that you can think of, and basically the mothers are allowed to come in and basically shop for their kids for the toys that they need for the holidays. And there's hundreds of families that show up for this event. So being able to help them, kind of shop and choose which gifts they want to give to their family and help them load up their cars was just, very impactful, because you could see it on their face how much they appreciated it and how much they enjoyed, being able to kind of select those gifts and not just get a random gift, but actually kind of go through and select something on their own to give to their children.
Wow, that's awesome, Matt. So you've mentioned a few times it's kind of a difficult real estate market. What do you see? I know this is where you got to pull out kind of the crystal ball, and there's a lot of opinions both ways on what direction we're headed. But what do you see for the rest of this year, maybe going into 2025? What will the challenges be? Where will there be opportunities, either for somebody looking for a home to live in or to invest in? What's your read on the market right now?
Yeah, so definitely still a challenging market. There's a lot of chatter right now about interest rates dropping and exactly when they're going to drop. We've heard everything from March to May to maybe even June now. So it's going to be interesting to see when the rates drop and kind of how that impacts things. It's also going to be interesting to see kind of what the equilibrium rate is, or what the rate is that actually causes a lot of movement and more listing activity. So you have a lot of people that are basically on the sidelines right now that, maybe they have a 2, 3, or 4% mortgage rate, and they need to move up because they need to have a bigger house because they've had another kid, or, they got married and need to actually move up to a bigger place, but they're kind of on the sidelines right now and not doing that. So it's going to be interesting to see if it's, 6%, 5.5%, 5, or what that rate is that actually causes them to move and kind of unlocks some of that inventory, and we see more volume in the marketplace. So I think, whenever that does happen, let's say it's June, July, August, that's kind of when we'll see things pick back up again as far as seeing more volume and probably see some additional inventory. And it'll be interesting to see how that plays out price-wise.
Yeah, do you think that'll put upward pressure on pricing? Having the more inventory, will that just attract so many buyers that have been waiting that we're just going to see a spike in prices again? Or do you think that'll kind of maintain an equilibrium and prices will stay kind of constant where they are right now?
Yeah, so I think it depends how much rates move. I think if rates move down significantly, we probably will have more economic issues, which was what will cause them to drop rates that much. I think if they gradually come down and we kind of ease into it, there'll be kind of an equilibrium there. So I think it just depends kind of what's happening macroeconomic wise and what we see there.
Yeah. So Matt, if people are interested in investing, particularly in Atlanta, I assume that's where your expertise lies. I'm assuming that's where most of your portfolio is fairly close to home. How would they get in touch with you, and what can they expect when they're working with you or with your team?
Yeah. So list2sellatl.com is our website. So I do have a team of agents that are all experienced with investing. They either own investment properties themselves or have helped other investors purchase properties. We also have a management arm of the brokerage as well. So, a lot of those agents are managing properties and have that experience that they can share with you. And so list2sellatl.com would be the best way to reach out to us.
Awesome, Matt. Thank you for spending some time with us today. I'm interested to explore your aviation journey as we move forward there and see how that corresponds with some additional success in life and in real estate for you. That's going to be an exciting journey. And congratulations on the weight loss. That's huge. So making big moves upward in real estate and aviation and enjoyment, making some downward moves and with weight loss. That's fantastic. It's been a pleasure, Matt. Thank you for joining me today on the Plain Success Podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Alan. Appreciate it.
On today's show with Matt Nicklin, we talked about the power of your network, how your network can accelerate the opportunities that you have in business and in life. One of the networks that I have the privilege of being a part of is Angel Flight West. Angel Flight West is a nonprofit organization that provides free flights for people in need of non-emergency medical care far from home. The network of giving, amazing pilots who give their time, donate their aircraft, and provide an incredibly life-changing service for others has been an overwhelmingly wonderful experience for me. If you have a friend, family member, someone that you know and love who is traveling for non-emergency medical care far from home, look us up, www.angelflightwest.org. We want to be part of your network and be a solution in the healthcare challenges that you may be having.